Well, welcome finally to my coverage of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. It's a little bit later than I would have wanted to. It was a bit planes, trains, and automobiles to get here, but we're finally here and ready to begin our coverage of this 61st historic event. I figured, how is the best way to tell 61, appropriately, storylines of the cars in this race when we only have a couple of days to do it? Well, going back to my Indy 500 coverage from last year, we did a garage tour. And so I figured that's the best way to kind of introduce you quickly to the cars and stars of the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. So let's go. The big storyline this year is the GTP class. The brand new cars, of course, that one isn't there. It's the Meyer-Shank Racing with Curb Agajanian number 60. That car is the defending winner, at least that team is the defending winner of this race. They are on the pole position. They qualified there during the Roar before the 24. The question with both of the Acuras, both from Meyer-Shank Racing and the newly renamed Andretti Autosport with Wayne Taylor Racing, is going to be whether the Acuras can actually finish the race. Now, what's something very interesting is you can see a cone on top of the car there. That actually tells you that the engine has a bit of charge in it. These cars are hybrids now. They have an electric engine on them, helping power them. And obviously, they keep the fans pretty far back now. It's actually been a bit of a change in the IMSA paddock from this year to last year, that they've actually moved these barricades back and the cars as far back as they can. I think they're worried about electric shock, obviously, with electric cars. We have two cars from Cadillac Racing, which is run by Chip Ganassi Racing. These cars have shown a lot of pace post-qualifying. It seems like perhaps this team, the Cadillacs, or at least this manufacturer, is the least worried about reliability. A lot of talk in the paddock already, and really, since these GTP cars debuted, that reliability would be an issue. Whelen Engineering, this is the, I guess you can kind of technically call it a private Cadillac team, or at least a single car effort. This is Action Express Racing, which you'll remember last year had a two-car effort, and generally pretty good in the endurance races. A big new entry into the prototype division for this year, BMW Team RLL with their new GTP car. You can see the unique nose design. You guys will remember that car from our coverage of the post-Petit Le Mans test. That car is actually powered by a BMW DTM engine, so that's pretty neat. It sounds pretty good too. You can see again the electric green cone on top of the car. Two-car entry here. They're actually splitting Colton Herta in both cars, so that's going to be an interesting storyline to follow. A lot of interest in these cars. The second major move up to the prototype division, Porsche Penske Motorsport. And obviously, when you say Penske and when you say Porsche and when you say sports car racing, those things have gone together very well. We are so fondly reminded of the RS Spiders from a couple of years ago, and ironically enough, the engine that powers this car shares much of the same DNA as those famous Porsche RS Spiders. We love those yellow and red DHL cars. Unfortunately, not as good of a livery this year, in my opinion. Pretty decent, though, and a very good-looking car. So that's the whole GTP field. Now we move into the defending winners in GTD Pro, FAF Motorsport. This is a new car, too. It's a GTD Porsche. As you can see, we can get a lot closer to this car because it is not electrified. In fact, if you move over slightly, you can get a better view of that Porsche. This is about as close as a fan is going to be able to get. A Multimatic chassis, as you probably know, on the Porsche. So the defending winners in GTD Pro, and one of the fan favorite liveries here for FAF Motorsport. Matt Campbell, Felipe Nasr used to drive that car. Now they drive for Penske Porsche. Then we go on to Vassar Sullivan, and they're one of the few GTD teams to split between GTD Pro and GTD AM. IndyCar fans will know Kyle Kirkwood is one of the drivers on this team. He performed very well last year. Jack Hawksworth, Mike Conway, coming over from the Toyota LMH program, Aaron Tielitz, Parker Thompson, Frankie Montecalvo in the 12 car. That's the AM car. And then we move on to one of the fan favorites, and emphasis on the one this year. There's only one Corvette, which is a bit of a shame, but it is here. The IMSA only car. Of course, they'll be splitting time between this GTD Pro car and a car that will be racing in GTE AM next year. Of course, in the World Endurance Championship, there is no GTD Pro anymore until they go to the new GT3 regulations. So there's Corvette, the one hope, the one lone hope for the fans of the big heavy Chevy in the GT division. Risi Competizione. We love these guys, and we love seeing them show up. Brand new Ferrari here, one of several entered in the race. This car, of course, racing in the Pro division. My cameraman Kyle doesn't like the number placement on the side of the cars. You guys will have to be the judge of that, whether you like it or not. TGM TF Sport and Aston Martin in the Pro category. There are two of those, one from Heart of Racing as well. Beautiful livery on this car. We're used to seeing it in the Pilot Sport series, so it's kind of fun to see it in the WeatherTech series. And then we move on to the Heart of Racing GTD Pro effort. This car was quite quick throughout the year last year and could be a surprise if you're looking for maybe a bit of a dark horse pick in GTD Pro. And here's the second Heart of Racing car in the GTD AM. So two cars from that team splitting strategy, similar to what we saw with Lexus, or what we have seen with Lexus in the past. WeatherTech Racing, this is another effort that we usually see 2 or 3 cars from. Only one car this year, a Mercedes, run by Proton Competition. Speaking of Proton Competition, now this team is an LMP2 for this race, and presumably Sebring as well, but they will be taking delivery of a Porsche GTP car, and they will be participating later on in the season in the GTP category. So if you want to look for a strong driver lineup, a strong team with a purpose-built prototype team, high-level prototype team that could win LMP2, I think that's a very good pick. Tower Motorsports, the Bus Bros car. If you are a fan of IndyCar racing, you will know that Team Penske drivers Scott McLaughlin and Joseph Newgarden are driving for this team, but also Kiffin Simpson from the Indy Lights division is in this car. Oh, sorry, Indy Next. Kyle has reminded me. Indy Next. Someday we'll actually get that right, and it's probably the day that they change the name again. PR1 Mathiasen Motorsports is one of the stalwart teams in LMP2. They're always so fast, and yet it seems like they never end up getting the win. It's always curious. This team is a bit of a contradiction. I said wins, didn't I? Well, they certainly got the wins. They just haven't gotten the win singular. Aero Motorsports, I think this is the best looking livery in the entire field. I don't know who designed it, but big shout out to you because it's beautiful. Ryan Dial is probably the biggest name on this team, along with Christian Rasmussen and Oliver Jarvis. Rasmussen was pretty fast at Road Atlanta last year in this car. TDS Racing, Rinus VeeKay is on this car. This is the car that I believe used to be the G-Drive car, but obviously for obvious reasons, G-Drive not able to be around anymore. So here's TDS Racing, kind of similar to the livery.
The Netherlands car, wasn't it?
Was it the Netherlands? Oh, it was the Netherlands car. I'm sorry. Yeah, the racing. For obvious reasons, that car is not called that anymore. TDS Racing, second car here. A team from Europe. And then what's interesting about Daytona is there's so many cars here, 61 cars, obviously more than we usually see for the Daytona 500, which these garages are purpose-built for. You have to walk all the way down here to the auxiliary garages to see a few more of the cars. So as the high-class racing car rolls by, we're going to move down here. Starting with not Garage 45, because nothing's going on down there. And there's technical inspection, and guess what? We found the Meyer-Shank racing car. The Meyer-Shank Racing Acura. Beautiful car, up on the lift. So many technical rules and regulations that these teams have to follow, and you can actually see them using cameras and laser measurements to get the perfect readings on those cars, making sure they are inch perfect to the regulations. Wouldn't want anyone cheating. This is actually, there's a chassis competition in LMP3. A lot of people, I guess, don't realize this. You're looking at a chassis that's called a Duquesne. You can tell the difference in the nose between the Duquesne and the Ligier. Much more pointed, almost open wheel nose with this particular car. And there are two of those. There's the yellow Duquesne, and then there's the green Duquesne. And then we move into some of the Ligier LMP3 cars. They're all positioned together, which is kind of fun. Andretti Autosport here. Ironically, Andretti Autosport is in one class, and all four Andretti Autosport drivers are racing for different teams. In fact, there is a possibility that all four Andretti Autosport drivers could win, the IndyCar drivers that is, win the Rolex 24 in different classes. Two more P3 cars here. And here's a stalwart prototype. Been around forever. JDC Miller Motorsports. And if you look on the side pods, unfortunately they don't have them out, but the side pod reads on the side of this Duquesne, my other car is a Porsche. The reason they have that is because they are going to, starting after Sebring, run a GTP Porsche. So look out for the nuclear yellow banana in Porsche flavor coming soon. All right, we'll pick things up here with the AF Course LMP2 car, which is very interesting. There's conflicting thoughts on this. I would tend to think, since this car ran the World Endurance Championship last year, and then all of a sudden you have a Ferrari LMH car running in World Endurance Championship this year, then perhaps this is a sign of things to come. But some people would disagree. AF Course also has a GTD car, another one of the new Ferraris, again one of several racing here. GTD AM division for AF Corse. You can see all the technical bits there, as the car is very modular, especially in the bodywork. Very interesting to see. Here's the Cedolare Ferrari next to it. Always loved that livery. A couple of years ago, this team brought a Dallara LMP2, which was very unique, and the only time that particular car has raced in the U.S., or at least in a U.S. race, a U.S. series. So there's the 023 Tirazi Competizione Ferrari. Beautiful chrome red livery on this car. Another GTD car. And you can see a favorite of the photographers around here. A couple of GTD Porsches. The 53 car is an interesting story because if you'll see on the ground, the car claims it's a GTD, but this car actually moved classes to GTD Pro. We've seen this a couple of times before, but it's rare when it happens. A car is entered in one class and ends up racing in another one. So if you're looking for an underdog in the GTD Pro division, that one certainly is. And also Jan Magnussen driving for that team. Originally Kevin Magnussen was supposed to drive for it, but that didn't end up working out. Big fan for people of a certain age, the Swap Shop T-Bird Porsche in kit form right now, but a beautiful livery, very reminiscent of the Porsche 935s that have raced and won an IMSA competition. This was a late entry, Sun Energy 1. Originally, Will Power was on the driving lineup for this particular car. Unfortunately, Will's wife had a medical emergency, and Will decided, quite rightly, to spend time with her rather than race in the 24 Hours of Daytona. So hopefully we'll someday see Will Power race in the 24 Hours of Daytona, but a late entry there, the 61st Century. And you may recognize some logos on this car. Aero Electronics sponsors the number 78 Lamborghini. That's a new-ish car. I believe it's just a body kit upgrade on the Lamborghini. And then we've got a car that you probably are familiar with. Oh, there's a Porsche going into tech. So all the GTP cars. There's actually a GTP only session later today, so that's what you're seeing. And then we're going to have a look here at the Wayne Taylor Racing with Andretti Acura GTD car. This car was racing in SRO competition, but now we have, are seeing it in IMSA for the first time in an endurance race. So pretty cool to see quite a contingent of Acuras actually, both in prototype and GT. And we saw this car earlier being pushed around, but the high-class racing number 20 LMP2. Danish colors on this car, many Danish drivers. Pretty nice looking livery, kind of reminiscent of the Alfa Romeos in Formula One. We've got CrowdStrike Racing by APR. This is the number 04 car. There's some talk, there's a rumor going around that this is the former Penske chassis. Haven't been able to confirm that yet, but that's kind of interesting to think about. I do know that that car had been sold. Rick Ware Racing is here. They ran LMP2 a couple of years ago in a Ligier, but this year it's an LMP2 Oreca. The driving lineup includes Daytona 500 champion Austin Cindric, as well as Devlin DeFrancesco of IndyCar fame. Iron Lynx, this is a big team in Europe, very significant entry here, which has implications for the future of sports car racing in this country because, of course, Lamborghini will be participating in GTP next year. Romain Grosjean is on the driver lineup for Iron Lynx in the Pro car. Beautiful green Lamborghini here. Then there are two AM cars coming from the Iron Lynx stable. You've got the 19 in the highlighter yellow here. Beautiful machine with pink accents. And then you have the Iron Dames, which is an all-female lineup. And they've actually done quite well in Europe. They've won a couple of races in class, and they look to do the same here at the Rolex 24. As the hydraulic jacks drop the car. Wright Motorsports, they've won GTD at the Rolex in the past. I believe they won it last year, if I'm not mistaken. Wright Motorsports with just a beautiful livery from Volt Lightning that we have seen in the Pilot Challenge, and now we see it here. Turner Motorsports is in the Pro Division with their BMW this year, kind of picking up the slack from Rahal Letterman Lanigan as that team moves to GTP. And there's a second entry, the traditional GTD AM 96, the Liqui-Moly livery that is so popular. That car is not getting too much love right now, all by itself. GTD car, well, the team Korthoff Motorsport, they're gone. They've already left for the night. Windward Racing actually wrote this car off. This is a very interesting story right here. The 57, this chassis is done. Big crash earlier this week. They're actually working on preparing the backup car right now. Windward Racing was one of the fastest cars last year, but if you look at this machine, especially at the front, I mean, there's not much left of it. And so the thrash is on to get this car ready for tomorrow and to run 24 hours. Paul Miller Racing, another GT car for BMW. This is an AM car that had pro pace at times last year. Actually, I think it won overall at VIR, if I'm not mistaken, in the GTD class. Then we have Inception Racing, the lone McLaren this year in IMSA competition. Beautiful racing machine with those gull wing doors. I mean, look at that thing. That is classic and classy. Couple more cars to go. We've got NTE Sport, another Lamborghini here. Blue and light blue, dark blue, light blue, white stripe. And like I said, the Lamborghinis have been upgraded for this year. Magnus Racing, always a fan favorite, and it seems they switch manufacturers every year. I don't think they've actually switched manufacturers this year. They've stuck with Aston Martin, but they have switched to livery. We have Flexbox on the car this year. A lot of people pulling for them. And if you look to the side of the garage, you will see the poster that they are so famous for doing at this point, always aping a movie poster. And this year, it's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Of course, this time, Once Upon a Time in Daytona. Magnus Racing. Beautiful. All right. So we've got the J.G. Wentworth Acura. Like I said, there are several Acuras. This is Gradient Racing. We've seen them before. They used to have a blue livery. Now it's an orange. It's a green livery. Maybe someday I won't be colorblind.
Pretty sure it's an all-female lineup too, right?
Is this? I'm not prepared to say. I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, it is. It is not an.
It just has Cat.
Catherine Legg, and I believe Sheena Monk is the other driver.
I forgot what Farnbacher.
Kelly Moss Racing with Riley. Interesting to see Riley with a Porsche. Usually they are a. Usually they're a car that has a Mercedes. 2 more cars to go. Another Kelly Moss car with Riley, number 92. So teammates. This car has Buddha on it. So, for all the Buddhists that are going to come out or support the Rolex 24, you might want to support that car. And finally, the Riley Ligier for 74 Ranch Resort, such a iconic livery. Usually this car is pretty good in LMP3, and that rounds out our field. So this was a tour of the garages. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's made up for the lack of content from the Rolex 24. We're gonna have our traditional 4-video segment tonight, or well, tomorrow into the night and into the next morning, where we're going to keep you up to date on what's happening during the running of the Rolex 24 Hours at Daytona. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been David Land on YouTube, and I'll see you in the next video.